Hello, everybody. It is great to be here today again. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 startups. I've been involved in two unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, and also Eva, an HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang about 6 years ago. Seems like a long time now. Love AI and quantum computing, and we look all over the world for companies that'll make a dent in the universe and have an impact. So today I have an incredible guest who's got accolades and is a legend around the world, has done a lot of work in the Indian Diaspora, Echo Forum, sandhill.com. I mean, you name it. We're an entrepreneur, investor, work with both large and small software company. He's a software executive, investor, entrepreneur, corporate eco strategy expert, community builder, and philanthropist. He was recognized as a software business expert. M.R participated in the rapid expansion of the Silicon Valley software industry during his tenure as executive about large and small companies. He founded the Sandhill Group in 1997, which made several notable investments, including the Enterprise and Software Conference series, and launched sandhill.com, an online resource for software business strategy. In 2007, M.R founded the Corporate Echo Forum, an organization dedicated to improving the effectiveness of the eco strategy at global 500 companies. You know, I met him recently in California, and just an incredible guy, the most connected person that I've met in my life. And with that, I'd like to bring M.R. Rangaswami on board. So, M.R., good to have
Hey,
you.
Gary, great to be with you again. I think I was wearing the same sweater last time, so don't think I don't have other clothes,
I,
okay?
I, I thought you were doing that just for me. I always say in Pennsylvania, if it's black and white, it's. I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, but I love it. It actually makes me feel. Hey, so Mr, tell me about this. How did you get started? And like, you're so connected in Silicon Valley, right? I know you got a lot of different organizations, but you've got an incredible personality, but how did that happen what made you, like, one day did you get up and say, I just love people and I want to start to work with them, or what happened? How did that start?
Yeah, I think, I when I was young, I suffered from probably the biggest fear any human being has. That's not the fear of flying. It's really fear of public speaking. I kind of was more introverted when I was younger. I had a hard time presenting in a group of more than two people and such. So I think that held me back when I was younger. As I got older and got, more trained, I became more, I guess, extroverted. So part of that is just this changing from being more introverted to extroverted. But along the way, I think there was one simple thing that became part of me, and that is when I meet people, it was less about meeting them to move my agenda or to get something done for me. It was a genuine interest in learning who that person was, but also connecting them to someone else who might add value to them. So that kind of became part of my value system, if you will. I think that's what I find why people take meetings with me and stuff is I'm not there to pitch them on a deal or sell something. It's more to learn who they are and be helpful to them. You know, so I think that's the basis of why I've been able to form so many friendships and relationships is that basic fact.
Now, I remember somewhere I read that you were one of the first venture capitalists. I mean, there was some note that had you listed. Uh, how did you get involved in investing, and how did that come about? Because I heard that there was some article that named you as like the I don't know, the Godfather, right? Like the beginning of the beginnings. How did that work, and what was that all about?
Yeah, I think it was more to do with angel investing. I do not claim to be the first venture capitalist. I do not even claim to be the first angel
Oh, for
investor, but
the first angel investor.
but the
Uh-huh.
Wall Street Journal wrote about angel investing for the first time. And
Mhm.
whenever they introduce a new concept in the journal, they put that within quotes. So the story is serendipity. I'd met an editor of the Wall Street Journal. on a social basis. He found out what I was doing, and he says, "This is really interesting. We've never heard of someone investing in startups and doing this thing, literally full time. Could I connect you with the reporter?" Next thing I know, the reporter calls and says, "I'm going to come over. Do you mind if I come over to California, fly over from New York, follow you for 2 days?" I'm like a stalker, you know. But my wife gave me permission, and so she showed up for 2 days and followed me around, writes a story, goes back very excited and says, "You're going to be in section C of the Wall Street Journal, the third section, which typically covers technology." She submits a story, and then she calls and says, "I submitted the story. The editors love it so much. It's not going to be in section C. It's going to be on the front page." I'm like,
Wow,
"Oh."
that's great. And so I
So,
got a question. How in the world did they come up with the term angel
I
investor?
guess that was a term being used by some people as they were doing the story, that these are called angel investors, or they're angels who kind of save a company and invest in a company, And so they came up, and then the next thing I know, she calls me on a Friday and says, "Your story is going to be out Monday morning." And to be honest, I wasn't a subscriber of the Wall Street Journal at the time. I used to buy it at stores and read it and stuff. So Monday morning, I'm here in San Francisco. At 6 a.m., the phone rings. Okay. The phone rings, and it's a friend of mine in New York saying, "Hey, you're on the front page of the Journal." I'm like, "Oh my God." So I had to, put on my clothes, get out of my pajamas, go to the corner grocery store here to buy the Journal in those days, right? So I buy the Journal, check out, and the clerk goes, "Hey, that's your picture on the front page." I'm like, "Yeah."
And did you
I
sign it like an autograph? Did you do
Yes,
that?
but
Wow.
that was the craziest time, Gary. I
But
mean, I'll
what
tell you, I
happened
got
after that, MR? Once that happened, I'm just curious. How did your life change once you were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal? What happened?
so the first week I got over 1,000 voicemails. Never picked up my phone. The phone would just keep ringing in those days. This was pre 1997. Okay, the
Mhm.
early days of mobile phones, but this was a landline. It would just keep ringing, go to voicemail. I would pick up the voicemails. In 10 minutes, it would get filled up and filled up and filled. So that's when I noticed the power of the media. So how my life changed was I got two kinds of phone calls. One, people giving me money. "Hey, invest my money. I've got $1 million. I want to write you a check." I'm like, "No, no, no, don't do that." The other side of the coin was people wanted my money. That's like, "Invest in my company." So I was just, for the first month, I was just responding to voicemails and emails about getting money to me or taking money from me. So that's kind of what happened. And
Wow,
and yeah, it
that's
was great.
amazing. MR, when they called, like were they, not naming any names, but they were well known people, or were they high net worth individuals? What kind of people would call up?
Everything from venture capitalists wanting to give the personal money to me,
Oh, okay. So the
to
venture capitalists wanted to put the money to you as an angel.
yeah, but their personal money, not the
Yeah,
fund's money,
I
but
get it.
their
I
own
got it.
money.
Okay, okay.
And other entrepreneurs who had made it, wanted to give me their private, capital to invest and so forth. So it was a mixture of those types of people primarily, and of course on the other side it was all kinds of companies, from tech companies to hotel companies to, I remember one guy wanted to make a 3D television. He was pitching me that, and all kinds of crazy deals, right? But the craziest, one of the craziest deals, if you will, in a way, was a guy who wanted to pitch a resort, resort, and so I get on the phone with this guy, and he says it's a themed resort, and I go, "What kind of theme?" He said, "It's a nudist resort."
Well, at least he got your attention, right?
He got my attention, and I was like, "Thank God I'm not on Zoom,"
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And so that must have helped you establish incredible relationships, because you have now a lot of credibility coming in to be able to command an audience. I mean, how did that work? Did you capitalize on these? If it was me, I would have looked at those ones that that wanted to invest with me, and I would have figured out how we could start working together.
Yeah, I think helped me collaborate. I did not want to raise a fund because
Mhm.
when I'd left the tech sector, I wanted to kind of keep my life simple. So I didn't want to create a fund and have limited partners. So I ended up collaborating with a lot of these venture firms, taking deals to them after I'd done the angel round and so forth. So it ended up that my network expanded exponentially after this article, as you can imagine. People wanting to have lunch, dinner, inviting me to speak at conferences, putting me on the cover of magazines, all that kind of stuff
Oh,
happened.
that's great. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And so it was fun. It was my, I would say, 15 days of fame, not 15 minutes in those days. Now it's like 15 seconds of fame
Mhm.
these days, but it was 15 days of fame. Yeah.
And so you went down through that. Now you came up with the, fast forward. So the Indian diaspora. I mean, if you look in Silicon Valley, I mean, the huge percentage of companies have been started by Indian Americans, right? And so, how does it, the diaspora? So, what made you decide to start the forum, and what kind of people do you have? What's it all about?
Yeah. So this is my third network, Gary. As you might recall, the first one was called Enterprise, and that's part of sandhill.com, which is my
Mhm.
website and the publishing site of my life. And Enterprise is for the top 100 CEOs in the B2B software industry. And again, philanthropic model. All the profits of the retreat go to nonprofits around the tech sector.
Okay,
So
so
I
it's the
kind of
top
started
100 CEOs.
limited to 100 CEOs only in the B2B software space. And these are companies that have either gotten 25 million in funding or 25 million in revenues. So
Mhm,
it's the fast growing high end of the startup industry, if you will, players that can make an impact, right?
mhm.
And everybody pays to attend, including the keynotes, and we take all the profits and we give it to nonprofits around the tech sector. Like recently, we gave money to Black Girls Code, Hack the Hood, the Computer History Museum, and on and on and on. Right?
Oh,
And
that's really nice. That's really great. And well, it must be great. And so, are these the top executives? Are they from Microsoft and Cisco? I mean, what kind of companies?
We limit them to CEOs. So we've had in the past the president of Oracle, the president of Microsoft, the CEO of SAP, and others come. And the rest of it are the unicorn CEOs and the fast growing companies and so forth. So it's for CEOs only. So typically we don't have a VP from Microsoft or companies like that attend. So it would be for the CEO.
For president or CEO of those companies, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had Satya yet or Sundar yet to this
Mhm.
event, but we hope in the next couple of years we'll get some of those folks. But it's a pretty prestigious group because it's limited to 100 people.
Got it. And then you're doing the corporate echo forum.
Yeah,
So what's
and
that
so
all about?
yeah, my second network is a corporate eco forum, and again, this is a group of 75 of the world's largest companies. So it's Apple, Amazon, Disney, Microsoft, Google, you name it, Ford, General Motors. Large companies. They have a title in their company called the Chief Sustainability Officer, and these are people who look at climate risk, reducing their greenhouse gases, increasing their renewable energy purchases, building sustainable supply chains. So we work with them to share best practices, innovations, to make the world a better place, because these companies that are members of the Eco Forum total $4.5 trillion of combined revenues. So these are the biggest of the big companies, and if they
Mhm.
just shift their standards 1%, this can make a huge difference to global climate risk. Reducing that. So it's really to do good in the corporate space. That's my
Are they
second
doing it
network.
though, MR? I mean, we got a lot of challenges with global climate change around the world today. Are they really doing enough? I mean,
I
from your
think these
perspective?
uh, everybody can do more, Gary. So we as citizens can do more, companies can do more. But I think the good thing with working with large corporations, because I had a choice at that time, I could either be a protest against these companies and pay Greenpeace to do things. That's one way to create change. Another way to create change is to get into politics or policy and put in regulations to cause change. But I decided working with Fortune 500 and Global 500 companies was a faster way to make change happen. Because with these companies, when they change, they set up processes and procedures, and the flywheel goes into effect. They
Mhm.
can create rapid change in a shorter time than a regulation or a protest. And that's why I decided to work with them. Can they do more? Absolutely. Are they trying their best? You can see recently everybody's committing to, carbon neutral by 2030, 2040, being carbon positive in some cases, net zero. All these things have come up in very short order. And I think it'll only get faster and better now with the US getting back into the Paris Accords, with recent COP26, all these things in climate change. I'm optimistic. There are challenges, no doubt. But I think by 20, we can sometimes surprise ourselves as human beings. We say it can't be done. Like Mandela says, things seem impossible until you get them done. And then you go, hey, we did that. So I feel the same way. By 2030, we'll look back and go, we never thought we could do all these things. By God, we got them done.
So when you go down through, how do you find the companies? I mean, is it hard to get, to start this in 2008? How did you go about getting the first companies? I mean, it seems like it's not easy to go out and recruit and to get them to agree to come into this. How did you do it?
Yeah, so the way we did it was we did a research study to understand the space. So through my network, we were able to get to about 60 Fortune 500 executives and tell them, we need 1 hour of your time. We're going to interview you confidentially. We're going to put out a study on what is happening within sustainability and climate change in these companies. And so they saw value in that. We would kind of consolidate all the results and give it back to them. And so that's how we earned their trust, is to produce a high quality report that resonated with them. And that's when they said, hey, can we get together? So it was done in that fashion, as opposed to, hey, come to my event and we're going to charge you money.
So you went in there and developed that relationship with them first.
Relationship and trust. Same thing with the Enterprise CEO Network. Develop the trust, then they will come, right? And that's how, when I started in Diaspora, which is only 9 years old, same kind of thing. I talked to over 100 Indian community leaders, just one-on-one, just talking to them to find out what are the problems, what are the challenges. Hey, and then we can get together. Then I convened them, and out of that came the objectives of in Diaspora itself.
And how important are those relationships, M.R., when you're doing this, when you go in to meet those people, and whether it's from the Diaspora or the forum, the Echo Forum, or executives, how do you go out? I mean, what do you do? What's the process like when you get, because you're dealing with the highest level folks on the planet, right? How do you do that? How do you come in and you're meeting with the CEO of a hyper growth company? What do you say to that person, him or her?
So a couple of things. These are, as you can tell, all my networks are very small, intimate networks, highly curated, highly personalized, one-on-one interactions, right? As opposed to large conferences, large events. So I think people value that. They may want to also do the larger ones, but with me, they value the one-on-one interaction, the small groups, and every one of these things, there's a code of no selling. Anyone tries to sell anyone anything, they're disinvited. So this is a safe space we created where people want to give rather than take. So these are all the tenets of all these three groups: is you give, you don't take, you don't sell. There's no hidden agenda. There's no quid pro quo. Once you put these in place, you earn the trust. So a CEO of a company is willing to share their challenges, as opposed to going, oh, gee, if I do that, someone is going to sell me something, or it's going to be in the press, right? So building that trust, building that value system is what I think is the most important thing people in these networks value.
Do they want visibility though? I mean, if they're doing a great thing, do they want it, or do they, how does it work?
Yeah, so this is not a place anyone wants the visibility, because no one is allowed to come in and tell everyone how great they are, right? This is more people come in and share their challenges and issues. So when we do the CEO network, people come in and talk about gender diversity, changing their board, selling their company, those kinds of things, working remotely. It's not about my company is great, it's worth 10 billion, right? So they're coming with a way to share, learn, trust, give. Same thing with the Eco Forum. People come to talk about all the issues in the companies, not they're the best, sustainable company in the world. So we've created that culture. It's hard to do. It's not something you kind of go, hey, CEO of a large company, come and tell me all your problems, right? They want to come and tell you how great they are. But once you kind of change their thinking, it works like a charm.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a great working group. And do you have meetings every month with them? Because it would seem like they would want to talk in some type of collaborative way all the time. Like sounds like a club, right? And they would want to talk to each other, speak to each other, and try to share ideas and try to get some mentoring and advising from people that are similar to themselves. What do you think? Does that work like that, or?
Yeah, in the past, Gary, prior to COVID, it was less frequent meetings because
Mhm.
we were not used to the model. During COVID and now, we do a lot of virtual events that are much more frequent, where we might get 10 CEOs on a call just to talk about a specific problem, or 10 people in a Fortune 500 companies to discuss a specific issue, right? So the COVID environment has created a lot more of these curated, small, spontaneous discussions. Whereas in the old days, you got to go, okay, who's available for lunch next Tuesday?
Mhm.
When can we have dinner? Now we can say, hey, can you have a call in 2 hours? Five of us are getting together. So yes, we do a lot of curated interactions, more frequent. But now, with COVID seeming to ease a bit, people are much more open to meeting again in person. So we're kind
Mhm.
of wrestling through what I call this hybrid environment.
Mhm.
Not clear where it's going to go, but we're trying our best.
No, it's interesting. So, what are the people like? So, the people that you're dealing with, for instance, those executives, what are what's one characteristic you see across the board and all those top executives in those companies? If you look, because they got something special to get at those levels, what or maybe three things? What are the three things that you see within them that's different than the average person in a company? What do you see?
Yeah, I think the biggest change we see in people is they check their ego at the door.
Hmm.
I think if we can make everyone do that, I think the world will be a better place,
Hmm.
right? You come in and say, "Hey, I'm one of 10. I'm not one among equal, first among equals, or whatever." You come in with that mindset. I
Hmm.
think then you are a different person. If you and I go to a meeting saying, "Hey, we're here to learn, we're here to share," very different kind of value than going in saying, "I'm going to tell people what to do," right?
Hmm.
I think that's the fundamental switch that happens in our meetings. And so it leads to a very productive set of meetings
Hmm.
where the discussions are much more, amicable. It's not confrontational, and people are trying to share and learn at the same time. So it's a very, very different. You got to attend one of our meetings, and then you'll know how it goes. But it's not the same, and that word spreads amongst their peer group. When people say, which Indian group should I join? They go, go to Diaspora because it's so different than any other meeting we've gone to.
Hmm.
Or enterprise, we talk to 10 other CEOs and discuss all the crazy stuff that we have to deal as CEOs, not what the external world sees of us.
Hmm.
So that kind of a culture we've built where by word of mouth we get referrals to these networks. We never do any marketing to any of these networks at all. Zero marketing.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm sure they do business together because you're creating a real collegial environment where they care about each other and they want to do business with each other. I'm sure that happens a lot, right? You probably see that.
Absolutely, business happens, but it's an afterthought. It's
Hmm.
something that comes out of it. It's not the reason to get together. It happens logically, practically, but if you came in with that motivation, a meeting would be different. If you came in saying, "I'm going to get business," you're going to be selling. If
Hmm.
you come in saying you're going to learn, you're not. It's going to happen naturally, right? That's the difference. I think we can all learn that and that's why I say networking is different than building a network.
Hmm.
Networking is, I need a job. I think so and so is going to be at this dinner. I'm going to go hit him up, right? That's
Hmm.
networking.
Hmm.
Network is, I'm going to meet that person. I'm going to get to know him, become friends, add value, and maybe I'll get a job at some point. Okay.
Hmm.
It's just your mindset has to change from networking to, can I build a network of people who will trust me, who will help me, and I can help them. And it's a very different mindset. And most of us go in with, I got to get things done. I'm going to go meet Gary because he's going to give me money. He's going to invest in my company. He's going to get me a job. But if I
Hmm.
came to you, Gary, and said, how can I help you? How can we build a relationship? Very different, right?
Oh, well, I mean, that's, I see it all the time, especially now during COVID. You got to develop these, you got to help people. It's, part of it's compassion and empathy
Yeah.
and really caring about doing something. Business will come later at some point in time, but developing those relationships and helping one another. Listen, we're in, challenging times, MR. These are not the easiest times.
Right.
And at the same time, the hope that we can make a dent to be able to address the inequalities in the world, to make this world a better place, to democratize opportunities. It's critically important. The one thing, Amar, my grandparents came to the U.S. because they had a dream. They believed that there was a hope, there was goodness and compassion. One of the things that we need to do is we need to bring that around the world. We all have to work together to solve a lot of the challenges that we have today, or nothing good's going to happen. So I applaud what you're doing. It's amazing, and bringing those executives. I know sometimes they have huge egos, right? They need to check at the door, but at the same time, on the other side, they're human, and they also have this. They got to put their pants on the same way, their socks on the same way. We're the same, and we got to understand that we got a short period of time to be on this planet physically, and we got to make use of it and try to do what's right. I remember a guy a long time ago that I did some work with, Digital HP, and Ken Olson. I remember literally standing with him, and he said, "Do the right thing." I'll never forget that, because that's what life's all about. You try to do what's right. And if people know you care about them, MR, they know your love, and you really want to help them, that in an unconditional way, things change, because guess what? People want to help you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So it's amazing. So what's happening now with the Indian diaspora now that India is starting to rise, right? So as India starts to more and more unicorn come, are we going to see as many Indians coming to the U.S.? I mean, what's your opinion? How's the world going to change?
Yeah, I think a couple of things have happened, Gary, all for the better for India. One is this whole concern about China, investing in China, what's happening in China, and also COVID exposed having a single supply chain with China can become a liability. So people have started looking at India as a second source, second supply chain. Also investing in tech companies, because a lot of Chinese companies are having challenges now. All this has resulted in a huge focus and look at India. So unicorns are being created every day, and they're going, not only that, they're going public both in the US and in India and so forth. So I think you'll see this attention in India grow over the next few years. But I think it'll also have companies in India moving to the US, because there are a lot of enterprise software companies in India, enterprise technology companies, that the customers are in the US. So they're moving the headquarters to the US and having their back office operations in India. So I think capital is flowing from the US to India to invest in these companies. But also I think people are moving from India, moving their headquarters to the US to service their customers better. So I think it's kind of this two-way flow of people, capital. Companies are going public in India now at high valuations. Mm-hmm. Indian companies are going public in the US as well at high valuations. So I think it's a virtuous cycle that we've created between India and the US, thanks to the issues in China. But let's hope we can build on it so that it becomes a solid relationship on its own.
Well, I mean, we have to do that, right? We have to make the world a better place. We have to democratize opportunity. And, I just, in closing, I just want to say, MR, you're a great man. I don't know, you're the original angel. What do you consider yourself?
I've got to put a halo.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the magazine, did they have wings and a halo and said the original angel? It's great. I mean, you've really redefined kindness and goodness for companies out there, to be an angel and to believe in dreams that people have. And that's what it's about. At that level, I've invested myself early stage companies, and to believe in the dreams and to believe in the team that they can really pull it off. And you never know, right? It's you never know. The company could be the next Facebook or Google, and it's just by believing in those dreams. So it's fantastic. And VCs changing, the way VCs are funding is changing, the way the money around the world is changing, how they invest. We see it every day. It's more decentralized than it was a few years ago. I see places like Indonesia, Singapore, in just rising and coming up. Australia to Africa. We're doing a lot of work down in Africa, so it's great. And of course, India is amazing. It's it's like magic. It's enchanting watching these companies grow and come out of the woodwork with incredible technologies from places like IIT or NIT and redefining the world. So it's great. Closing thoughts, any closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So there are three websites that I have. They're easy to remember. One is sandhill.com. If you want to just check out everything to do with the tech industry. Bought that for $20, by the way. The VC,
Great.
everybody thinks I have an office on Sand Hill Road, right? I own sandhill.com. So that's for the tech folks. For the eco folks and sustainability folks, it's ecoforum, ecoforum.com. You can find all the information there. And for the Indian community, it's Indiaspora, INDIASPORA.org. Those are the three groups. Hit me up on LinkedIn and also on Twitter. It's MR Sandhill, like Mr. Sandhill on Twitter. So you can find me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and through the three websites that I have. So check me out.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Really appreciate it. To my audience out there, thank you for coming one more time to GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And I'm the host, Gary Fowler. Let's make this world a better place. As MR said, let's be kind, let's go out and help, and let's do it in an unconditional way so we can all live together in a better way and a better quality of life. Stay safe, stay happy, and love your loved ones. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you again next week on Tuesday for another edition of GSD Present. Thanks, MR.
Thank you so much, Gary, for having me.
Yep, take care.